What is up, YouTube? I'm back with another edition of Against the Ropes. Today, we're going to cover Brock Lesnar's recent return to the WWE last year. Up until now, but I'm going to mainly cover his storyline with Roman Reigns right now. Even though they're both on different brands, that's kind of what WWE wanted until WrestleMania. Let's go! Alright, we're going to start it off with back at SummerSlam, when Lesnar originally returned. Confronted Roman Reigns after he fought John Cena and smashed him. Roman's reaction, priceless. He was just pissed, like, come on, what are you doing? Lesnar is just, with his new look, ponytail, beard, looking like a real Canadian, and his babyface. Paul is like, oh my god, I'm about to die. What's going on? The fans are losing their mind. The commentary team is losing their mind. It's crazy. Face to face, Roman basically walks off. Nothing goes on. After the event, he beat up Cena, gave him an F5, gave him a suplex city. Yeah. Pretty smooth sailing. From there, Usos were basically suspicious about Paul Heyman. Roman was suspicious. And Kayla Braxton somehow made this very humorous to watch. But basically, from SummerSlam until September, which we'll get into in a minute, it was mainly just suspicion. A lot of bits where Kayla was like this when Paul was on the phone with Brock Lesnar. She's just, and just, let me talk to you. Let me talk to you. What did she say? Oh, yeah. She basically told Paul, you're right, this is a good moment, but like in a humorous way where you kind of can't help but just smile. It just gets me all the time. Kayla Braxton, you're amazing. And then, yeah, wasn't a lot of backstage segments. Usos sus about Paul, Roman sus about Paul. Nothing really going on until the 10th of September. That's when in Madison Square Garden. Fans go nuts over him. Oh my God, we love you. You are the best. Please be our saving grace. Heyman does his old little introduction with Brock to kind of do a throwback, and then basically tells Heyman, accept my challenge. Heyman's a little confused, but Brock's talking about challenging for the Universal title. Heyman kind of stalls a bit, just sucking his ass, all that kind of stuff. Lesnar picks him up for the F5, but Roman comes in, Superman punch. He tries to spear, but gets caught in the F5. But then the Usos come in, double super kick, and he pretty much just lays them both out. And just takes care of the Bloodline. And that pretty much, yeah, Brock's just strong. And again, Roman questioning Paul. Because that's going to be the theme for the next while. Honestly, probably up until WrestleMania. Because we know we're getting that match. We just don't know who's losing at the Rumble. Which is kind of a spoiler. Yeah, it's going to be like this all the way up to Crown Jewel. We had a segment where Kayla Braxton is just kind of like smiling at Paul. Because it's like, yeah, I know you're in cahoots. Paul is basically screaming at her, telling her to go away, mind your own thing. They're both doing great work. Facial reactions are on point. And then Big E is just smiling like an idiot with his title around his waist because it was when he was WWE champion. Just absolutely brilliant. And then nothing really until the 1st of October. Lesnar and Reigns had a face-to-face. Then they brawl. Roman gets the upper hand. Then Brock suplexes Roman. Goes for another. Then the Usos come out. And then basically get laid out. Stare down, and Roman's basically backing away like a little coward. Then, why not F5 the Usos? Because, That's any babyface takes care of business. And then Brock, in the back, he interrupts Jeff Hardy, who kind of just vanished in that segment, and I'm glad to hear he's doing better. I've read up. Good for you, Jeff, but WWE underutilized you. He basically is just like, I would like to tell you that because of my advocate, Paul Heyman, I am a free agent. Because of my advocate, Paul Heyman. And then just mic drop, and then if you know Lesnar, he doesn't do a lot of humorous stuff, but this character is just wonderful to see. Paul's facial reactions. The man knows what he's doing. He is a beautiful man. And then, because there was a segment with Roman, the Usos, Paul, basically again suspicious about Paul Heyman because we don't know where his allegiance is. It ultimately ends in Paul Heyman getting sent to Raw to ensure the Usos are drafted to SmackDown, which nowadays it's clear they were, but at the time they weren't, but we all knew at the time they would be. And then Paul's facial reaction is like, if he doesn't do anything about getting them on SmackDown, Roman's going to come there and execute him and his family. It's nuts. It's just good work by them. They did a really good job at that. And then after Paul leaves, "It's my Bible chief. Oh my God, I love you so much." He basically tells the Usos, you're going to go with him and make sure they're drafted to SmackDown. And if not, Paul, leave him dead on Raw. Like, this man is a psychopath. Again, on Raw, backstage interview, they're all happy. Oh, I am pretty much advocate of the Usos. Then Kevin Patrick basically mentions the free agency, and the Usos are just looking at him like, the fuck do you do? Excuse my language. And Paul's like, oh boy. Good stuff. Then more Paul Heyman suspense. Brock Lesnar promo, which pretty much leads into Paul Heyman saying Reigns is going to win at Crown Jewel. Nothing really there. The same old kissing ass, Roman psychopath, and then Paul hyping him up by saying he's going to win. Yada, 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 yada. Basically, to recap what I just said, because I will have to take this moment and say, sometimes there might be some cutouts where you don't hear my voice. That might be to do with my camera, or I'm getting notifications at the same time. Don't worry. But to recap what I said, more Paul Heyman, Bloodline, Brock Lesnar suspense, which leads to Paul saying Reigns is going to beat him at Crown Jewel. And then we get Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns contract signing. Both men sign. Roman takes his time while Paul looks over it. Very, 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 very careful. Rock just... Then Roman's just like, you dumbass, you big dumb farmer. Not even looking over it. So Brock, what does Brock do? He says, I already read the damn contract, and I went over it with my advocate, Paul Heyman. Has a grin like an idiot, is walking off, and Roman's looking at Paul like, I'm going to kill you. And Paul's like, oh my God. So we get to Crown Jewel. Both men we start the match. They have their intros. It's great, Both men, they pretty much throwing punch for punch, move for move. Brock trying for the suplex for the first bit and then finally getting it. And then once he has the upper hand, he goes to the top rope and Reigns drops down and pretty much rope to the throat to gain the upper edge. He eventually hits the spear for the near fall, which, worthwhile. Then he Superman punches him, Superman punches him. Brock counters with a suplex city. Great. Just great. Then goes for the F5 for a near fall. Then tries for another F5, but it's countered into a guillotine. And then that is countered into a spine buster. F5 that turned into another ref bump because WWE likes doing this, which means you know what's coming. Roman hits a spear. Both men are down. To go back to that ref bump, Lesnar hit the F5, and it hit the Roman's foot hit the ref to knock him out. And Rock could have had him covered to 500, and it would have made no difference. But you know, WWE. Both are on the ground, and Paul is just there with the title, like. And he had that same reaction the whole time, but he eventually throws the title, and it says, "I don't know what to do." But apparently, he literally didn't know what to do. Then, you know what's next. The Usos come in, super kick him. Reigns uses the title. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, not a whole lot. You know there's a rematch. That's all that's really telling me. Brock basically says he's coming to I think later that night, he basically said he's coming to SmackDown, and he's basically going to kill Roman Reigns. So we get there, Roman Reigns doing a promo. He's basically calling Brock Lesnar out, talking trash about him, calling him names, all that fun stuff, saying he's going to smash him. Brock said what? Pretty much not scared of him. And then eventually all this talking leads to Lesnar coming out, and he basically destroys the Bloodline. He destroys refs. He destroys everybody in sight. Suplex F5s, Bloodline. Even to some of the talent, he pretty much destroyed everybody. And then he stood tall with the Universal title. And then Adam Pearce comes out, says he's suspended for his action, is irreprehensible. And then Brock comes and basically destroys him. Yeah. Which I believe in real life, Brock was taking about a month off. So that was their way to, like, hype him up. And from, like, that, he pretty much also got fined $1 million. And more suspense, pretty much up until he returned. When he returns, it was basically Sami Zayn won a battle royal to be the number 1 contender for the Universal title. Kayla Braxton is basically interviewing him. And before that, because previously, Paul confronted her in the back, basically saying what sources didn't really believe what she had to say, and gave her to the end of the night to actually have a source that is confirming he will be there. She basically stopped Sami before saying anything else. Basically says Brock suspension is lifted and he will be on SmackDown next week. And Sami's like, "Why my moment? Oh my God, you idiot!" But nice little story, you know. It went well. And this Sami Zayn stuff, it was really funny. I would go and out and watch it. You'll laugh. So basically, the next week, Brock Lesnar's cutting a promo. Sami comes out before Brock can really do anything. Is basically sucking up to Brock Lesnar, kind of building him up. I don't know why, but Sami Zayn, you are the best. I love you. Brock basically is just convincing Sami Zayn at this point to fight. And Sami's like, "Oh, no." And then Brock is just like aggressively up in his grill, trying to tell him to take the match, fight Roman tonight. It took Sami Zayn about 500 years and 5,000 excuses later to actually go through with it. And then he eventually does, and Brock is just like acting like his best friend. Oh, my Lyra. Which I will tell you now, it was great. So yes, we get that match. We do get that match, and basically Brock destroys Sami. F5 all over the place. Roman basically beats him. Yeah. It was pretty hilarious to watch, because you knew it. The next week, Sammy comes out with nurses for some reason, complaining how he was screwed last week. Brock kicked the crap out of him and just went on and on, just like Sami Zayn always does, talking about conspiracies. Brock eventually comes out. They get into a chat, and eventually we get to a point where Brock's apologizing, trying to do this buddy act, and we get to a line where he says to Sami that they should go hunting and fishing. Paul is basically like, "What are you doing, Brock? When have you become the Canadian best friend to this guy? You're the Beast, the Conqueror," hypes him up, and Lesnar basically wipes out Sami and his nurses. And more Paul Heyman suspicion, because that is going to be very key in this next while. Roman Reigns has a promo, basically the same thing, questioning Paul. Paul is basically trying to plead his case, suck up to Roman. And to end it, his last words were, "I'm trying to protect you from Brock," which ultimately Roman fired him, gave him the Superman punch. They're about to concerto him. Brock comes out, and just the way he looks as he's coming out, he's on the side and he has a grin. I laugh every time I see that. It is fantastic. He comes out for the save. He wipes out the Busos. At one point, he gets super kicked. He's laughing and just F5s him. And the other one. Comes in, goes after Roman Reigns. Roman hits him with like 500,000 chair shots, and he somehow just F5s him, and then F5s him again for good measure. And then due to the holidays, they weren't on television. And then COVID-19 hit Roman, which I'm glad to see he's okay, which ended up putting Brock Lesnar in a fatal 5-way for the WWE title, which he ultimately won, which if you wanted to keep him on different brands till Mania, that's a smart way to look at it. Has a celebration on Raw, reuniting Paul Heyman. There's not much Roman suspicion because they have challengers up until the Rumble, but we'll most likely get back to that. And then Roman and Brock come face to face, and they're basically they're just face to face talking about fighting again. The love triangle where Brock is basically telling Paul to shut up, and Roman's like, "Don't talk to him like that." And the same for Brock when Roman says something bad, and then Roman ultimately Superman punches him, and that basically puts an end to that. And then basically Brock and Bobby had a face-to-face. Both insulted each other, both showed each other respect, and they're going to have a good match. And we're going to get both of those men another face-to-face on Raw. It should be pretty good. I can't wait to see it. So I am definitely staying tuned for that. And I wanted to take this time to just give another COVID reminder. Stay safe, stay positive. Let's fight together and get through this. Nobody wants to deal with this. I don't want to deal with this. Let's work together and fight this battle. Anywho, to summarize what I think is going to happen next, I honestly think Roman's finally losing his title, because someone's going to have to lose his title. I think Roman's finally losing his title to set up Roman winning the WWE title at Mania from Lesnar. Because we all know that match is happening again. And then Seth Rollins, his opponent can go anywhere. But Seth deserves his title, deserves another title run. He had a shitty babyface run at first, but I think this time it will be better. Just because, there's not the Fiend crap again, which is good. But, yeah. That is all for this edition. I am glad you took the time to listen. Please leave a like, subscribe, and a comment. And I am going to be doing a recap for Monday Night Raw, probably this time tomorrow. Same with NXT. I'm going to come at you with more positivity talk. And also, I'm going to cover the Royal Rumble as well. So, folks, stay tuned, stay safe, and stay beautiful or handsome. Remember to subscribe.